The King's Queen by Zero Zen. Chapter 9. Raphael's Point of View. It was so early that I didn't notice it. The halls were still empty despite that the servants went on their duties. They seemed to avoid these hallways. They used the other wings instead. But as I walked, I saw a few servants casually walking around. They all looked relaxed compared to before. Oh yes. I just realized that before Mother used this hallway very often, and that's why the servants had been avoiding this. But now that Mother had changed, the servants started using it again. Good morning, my prince. A servant in our parties greeted me as we crossed paths. Is Mother still in his room? I asked. Apparently the queen has been staying in the king's quarters. Does this mean I'm going to be a big brother? I gasped. Since when did Mother sleep in the same room as Father? As far as I could remember, Mother had his own room, and for some reason, Father and I were not allowed inside. It confused me at first. I thought parents slept together, but Father explained to me that it was Mother's choice, and we had to respect him. My prince, I'm sorry, we're not allowed to meddle in the queen's and king's private affairs. The servant stuttered. Her face was bright red. Mother really changed. I pondered. Sometimes I really didn't want to think about it. I just wish that he'll remain like this forever, because he made Father change too. I blinked as I felt the servant pat my head. If it happens, I'm sure that you'll be the best big brother. She smiled down at me. I smiled back, even if it wasn't what I was thinking about. I waved at her as she went back to attending her chores. When Mother was so distant as well as Father with his work, the people who made me feel a mother's love were those servants. Those who were nice to me, but, of course, they scolded me at times too. I wonder why Mother was so cool towards them. They were all very nice. Maybe I shouldn't keep these questions to myself and ask Mother personally. Instead of going to Mother's room, I went to Father's and pushed the door open. Hello, Mother? I peeked inside and saw the room was empty, but I could hear running water in the adjacent bathroom. I'll wait for Mother then. I closed the door and sat on the bed. The scent of the room was very overwhelming. This was the first time I smelled both Father's and Mother's scent in one room. Flopping back on the bed, I curled up and nuzzled my face into the sheets. I could feel my eyes growing heavy as the mixture of scents pulled me to sleep. It was very early, but I had no problem staying awake at this hour since I was used to it with my schedule. But today, I felt so sleepy. With the scents in the room, I felt safe. It felt like home. Levi's point of view. Oh, look at you. I smiled as I leaned down and brushed my fingers over Raphael's hair. It was quite surprising to see him when I got out of the bathroom, all curled up in the center of the bed. He looked so cute and so small in such a large bed, like a sleeping angel. I didn't want to disturb him, but we had to eat breakfast this time. I had to make sure. He needed to gain more weight. He's so frail looking. I'm so worried if he fell and hurt himself or if someone pushed him, he would fall so easily. Raphael, baby, wake up now. Let's get breakfast. Raphael squirmed as I kept running my hands in his hair. His mismatched eyes fluttered open, still dazed from his nap. Oh God, he's so cute. I can't seem to force him anymore. I just don't have the willpower with that cute face of his. I picked him up, letting him wrap his arms around my neck, while my arm support his behind. With this position, he could sleep on my shoulder, which he did instantly. He purred. I just chuckled and went out of the room. His weight was like paper, and it made me worry. Oh, my poor baby. I carried him quite easily as I walked down the hallways. Then a thought came to me. I could feel the sadness over it. I forgot how it felt to carry Raphael in my stomach. What it felt to be pregnant with him. I could feel my omega instincts cry as I tried to dig deeper into my memory of what it felt like. It took a deep breath before dismissing the idea. I can't remember the feeling, but on the bright side, I'm carrying Raphael now. It was not the same, but it was nice too. Now I could feel my inside screaming at me to get pregnant again, just to recall the feeling. I shrugged it off first. I had to make sure Raphael eats well. Aaron's point of view. Well, that went well. Ron grinned as we left the courtroom. The lords of Rose know their boundaries. Even most of them were soldiers. They have more tact than the earls of the land. I sighed. I can't believe that I missed my breakfast, first thing in the morning, of some petty fights. Your Majesty, forgive me for the urgency that I caused you. My court advisor, Armin, bowed at me in apology. Even when his hands were full with files, he didn't let that stop him from bowing down. It's okay, Armin. I understand your urgency. I waved at him dismissively. Armin's a smart beta. He served me since I was crowned as king, and his superior intelligence aided me in the court through the years. Armin would instantly know when things had to go down, and he would not waste time in informing me. Thank you, sire. He smiled at me, his bright blue eyes and blonde hair reminding me of Oren, my Omega's knight. Speaking of which, where is he? Have you seen Owen? I asked John. When he shook his head, I turned to Almond. His face immediately turned red. I haven't seen him around for some time. Typical Almond. When he was shy, he tended to shout. Maybe he's in the barracks training the soldiers, he added sheepishly. I couldn't help but smile at his obvious infatuation with the knight. Aaron? I looked up at the call and saw Levi carrying Raphael. The child was dozing off on his shoulder. The Queen! Almond exclaimed, eyes wide as he stared at Levi. When he snapped out of his shock state, he bowed down. John stared at him as well, gaping like a fish at the Queen. I almost forgot that only a few knew about the Queen's new look. I thought you were attending court. He nodded at Almond, acknowledging the blonde Omega before turning his attention to me. Yes, but we are done for the day. It seems like I could get used to my Queen's new look. He really looked like a different person with his undercut hair and his casual clothing. My eyes drifted to my son, who was fast asleep on his shoulder. He fell asleep? Earlier he was awake, but he fell asleep again. We were going to get breakfast. Mind joining us? Yes. I skipped breakfast earlier. Let me carry him. I offered, gently taking the sleeping boy. Raphael opened his eyes, confused at the new location he'd awakened at. But when he noticed it was me, he made himself comfortable in my arms, drifting back to sleep. I couldn't help but smile and ruffle his hair. I can tell he really likes naps. Levi chuckled as we continued walking to the dining room. But we had to break him for breakfast. I patted his back, making sure he would get the idea that he shouldn't be sleeping his heart out today and missing breakfast. I'm sure when he smells the pancakes, he will be up and about. How about cake for dessert? I smirked at Levi. Cake? Levi blinked, his eyes open for a moment at mention of cake. You're such an angel, you know that? Levi called at him, gently pinching his cheek. I chuckled, not caring about the servants watching us with their jaws hanging. I wonder what they thought was a strange sight. The Queen of Siena and his new look and attitude, or the fact that this was the first time they had seen the three of us together like a normal family. End of chapter 9.